What's up, guys? Here with you with FC Wonderkid, episode 115. Here with my guy, Breton. How are you?
I am doing so well. It's scary, Alex. Just so much football knocking me all over the place, especially in the States. The Women's World Cup. We've got Lionel Messi in Miami finally and scoring a goal in ridiculous fashion. We've got Kylian Mbappé setting the world alight in terms of transfer news. And then we've got all these under-the-radar transfers and a lot of Premier League talk to go through. So I don't know. I'm busy. I've got a lot of thoughts in my head. How about you, Alex?
I have a lot of thoughts. That's an excellent way of putting this episode 115. But before we get to it, do not forget to like, comment, and share this podcast. And here in Portugal on YouTube, it's out every Monday at 6 o'clock. So go bold, community. But yes, Breton, you said it. Yeah. Mbappé is again the most talked player this summer. Just like last summer, the summer previous to that one, Mbappé always seemed to get the attention. Why? Because Mbappé in the right team is the best player in the world. We do know that Mbappé to Real Madrid is inevitable with due time. But will he have a stop elsewhere for a year, Breton?
It sounds like it. I think PSG is getting into the conspiracy theorist type of situation when it comes down to potentially losing Kylian Mbappé on a free. And that scares them to no end, as it potentially should, because Kylian Mbappé is anything but a player that signs on free. So as of right now, I mean, just to lay it out there for everybody, Kylian Mbappé is off the preseason tour to Japan. He is not going with PSG. His brother, Ethan, though, will go, which is just kind of incredibly poetic in and of itself. But Kylian Mbappé, I think, looked at Cristiano Ronaldo's comments about Lionel Messi or about the Saudi League and Lionel Messi making his debut. And he basically said, well, now's my time to shine. I need some headlines. But PSG... Let's be honest, Alex, and then I promise I'll stop with this tirade here. But PSG has backed themselves into this corner. It's like Frankenstein, right? They have created this monster that is not Kylian Mbappé per se, but they have given him the keys to the kingdom. And Kylian Mbappé was right to accept the keys to the kingdom. And now they're looking and saying, well, what do we do? Because he's leaving, and we're afraid he's going to leave on a free. What do we do? What do we do? And his possibilities are endless. It's just, what would you do, Alex?
I would, honestly, I would leave. Mbappé said when he stays at PSG, he said, I need a striker because I want to play on the wing, and I do not want to play with Neymar. That is rumoredly what was said. So now we see Luis Enrique, that was the best manager ever with Neymar, going to PSG. And now the message is clear by PSG. They do not need Kylian Mbappé for the future of the team. The future that Nasser El Khelaïfi wants is to win the Champions League. And that is the sure focus. No one is above PSG. And I understand that statement done by the president. But yes, you said it. The message is clear to the whole world of football. The moment he doesn't go to the tour to Japan and Korea, Mbappé now is available, and Real Madrid are put on pressure moment for Florentino Perez. Now, everybody expects Florentino Perez to pay up big time. And I do not know if it's true, but 100 million supposedly can be on the case to convince the right club for Kylian Mbappé to leave. But people, don't put out the possibility of Kylian Mbappé sitting out on the bench. Because if that happens, who loses is not just Kylian Mbappé, but it's PSG. Big time. Big time. Because they'll have to pay, regardless, Kylian Mbappé more than 100 million. And he will always get paid more than 100 million for signing fee to go to Real Madrid next season. But if Kylian Mbappé decides to go to Al Hilal, earn 400 million, one season, 400 million, and the Al Hilal still pays 200 million to PSG. That is the best of both worlds, supposedly, if Mbappé wants the money for just 1 year. To go to to Real Madrid. Because Al Hilal supposedly is fine with him staying only 1 year and then agreeing to go to Real Madrid after. So a lot of news. a lot of news. But my last question for Arsenal fans. Arsenal fans are going to love this. If you enjoyed this video, like this video. Arsenal fans are going to love what I'm going to say now. That it is. If Arsenal and the Cronkies, if Arsenal sign Kylian Mbappé, the Cronkies will never know. In the next 10 years at least, will never leave their role as owners. And all the fans will always be so grateful for them to do this impossible, in my view, to get Mbappé. But if Arsenal got Kylian Mbappé, would they be the favorites ahead of Man City in the next Premier League, Breton?
No. No. No.
Arteta ball with Mbappé.
Absolutely not. No.
I don't know, Breton.
No.
With Declan Rice, Mbappé. I don't know. If Bernard Silva leaves Man City, I really don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Okay, well, if Bernardo Silva leaves Manchester City, that's interesting. I mean, Ilkay Gundogan too is a big. I mean, all of this is a big loss, but it's Pep Guardiola. You laid it out. They got the best center back. They've got probably the second best center back, in the Premier League too. They've also got still the best midfielder. They've also got the top striker. Kylian Mbappé, yes, would change things, but he would take a little while to get his feet under him. And if it's a one-year project that he's entering into, it's put up or shut up. And it's not like this kid has never been injured before. So I think it's unrealistic to think that. And I know. I just hit my microphone. I know what you're doing here, Alex. I know what you're doing here.
What do you mean?
But I think it's more likely that Kylian Mbappé winds up at like a Newcastle for a year because it just makes so much sense. But you have to think about it this way: every one of these teams that we would mention, whether it's Newcastle, whether it's Arsenal, whether it's Manchester United, or even
Chelsea.
Manchester City, they all Chelsea doesn't actually have a plan yet. He would fit Chelsea because 1 year for Chelsea. They're hiring mercenaries as it is because they're not signing anyone as it stands. Arsenal, though, has a clear understanding of where they want to be. Newcastle, while it's not exactly public knowledge, they definitely have a plan on where they want to be and where they want to go. 1 year of Kylian Mbappé is literally just a tease.
Well, but I don't think he'll go for 1 year if he goes to Arsenal. Because imagine, I don't think for Arsenal it's beneficial just to have 1 year. I think Al Hilal, I think not a lot of clubs are offering the 1 year.
But the whole reason he'd be going to Al Hilal for a year is because the Real Madrid, in PSG's mind, the Real Madrid deal, whether or not they have confirmation, I don't know, but the Real Madrid deal is already done.
That's why
they're freaking out so much.
That's why Al Hilal is a better choice to then go to Real Madrid than Premier League.
It is, but I think, as a 24-year-old that is just starting for the most part in his brand development, I don't know. 1 year in Al Hilal to kick the tires and make $400 million, that probably makes most of his fans pretty happy, but might alienate a few others. And in the end, he's counting cash, so who the heck cares? But I see it's more likely what you said in the beginning, and I hate to bring it around full circle, is that I live in the States, and it's contract lockouts are a very, very big part of all American sports here. You see it all the time, especially in the NFL. I see it more likely that he literally does not play.
He's not going to Miami.
He does not play. I'm not even saying that.
That's a power move. What I'm saying
is in the Premier League, it is a power move. And that's the thing. Right now, believe it or not, Kylian Mbappé has the end game power if he actually already has a deal under the table with Real Madrid. Okay? Now, PSG, they're flailing, and they're trying to guess what's going on, and they're trying to monetize the last year they've got with Kylian Mbappé. At least that's what it looks like right now. So do you bench him as if to say, well, if you're not going to play for us, then you're not bigger than the club? You made him bigger than the club. You were the ones that made him bigger than the club. It's your fault. It is your fault, PSG. I am not going to fault Kylian Mbappé here. Now, I do think Kylian Mbappé, if he goes anywhere else, needs to become a true footballer again, at least on the club stage. Which, let's be honest, I mean, he performs every time he's out. So
I agree.
You might not act like it, but he will need to be. If he signs for Real Madrid in the future, Florentino Perez is not going to accept this. Ancelotti won't be there, so whoever is going to be the next boss of Real Madrid will not accept being you know, better than the club or bigger than the club. But PSG, there is no doubt in my mind that PSG is the one that put him in this situation as a 24-year-old.
You're saying so much now, because imagine, even if a new manager goes to Real Madrid, that new manager, whoever it is, 14 Champions League speaks for itself. And I think anyone realizes that the greatness of Real Madrid is never in question in this scenario. And that's why Mbappé will never question Real Madrid, and that's why he should go there in order to get a Ballon d'Or. Every football fan just knows that's the right thing that should happen. To equal to what Barcelona are doing, that is a very interesting project. But I completely agree. Qatar and PSG's board were embarrassed with this whole situation of an agreement for the next season for Real Madrid to get Mbappé, and that's why they will not accept, and they'll have to sell for 200 million. But the options are on the table. Al Hilal Mbappé, Premier League with Newcastle, Chelsea, Man United with Qatar. Wait, definitely. But would it be 1 year? Tell us your thoughts in the comments down below. And do not forget to like this video for more videos like this. This is a very bold topic of Kylian Mbappé. But we expressed Premier League as one of the main interested for this player. And the Premier League has elite managers. In terms of managers, I think it's no doubt that they have the best managers in the world as a pool of managers. But the most well-paid manager, I think, is still Simeone in La Liga with Atletico.
Yes.
That is quite sus. I just want to say that because he's not the best manager in the world. The best manager in the world is our number 1 in this list. And if you know, comment down below the number 1 of the top 5 ranking of the best managers in the Premier League. But again, interesting, Breton. Who is your number 5? Because it can be very controversial. This is controversial territory.
There are so many honorable mentions. I mean, the 5th place, let's be honest, is the toughest place because there's a couple legends here for the most part, and there's a couple kind of wannabe legends. And I top 5 Premier League managers, the 5th, this is where it's at. So I'm going to start with maybe somebody that seems a little controversial to be in 5th. I don't know. But I'm going to say Erik ten Hag. I'm going to say Erik ten Hag. And listen, I believe... should a man who took until this past week to finally strip the captaincy from Harry Maguire be any higher than 5th at this moment? Probably not. Should he even be in the top 5? I don't know, because it's still small sample size. But there's no doubt that Erik ten Hag, they won a trophy. Erik ten Hag has made some very, very tough decisions. Whether or not they're right, I don't know. They have gotten blown out, but at the same time, they have played relatively decent football with a little bit of consistency near the end of the season. And there's a lot pointing in the right direction for Manchester United and wanting to become, quote-unquote, the best transition players, you know, in the Premier League. And I am here for that. And you know what I'm also here for when it comes to Erik ten Hag is I'm here for fostering a part of Manchester United that has kind of been stripped away. And I think Gary Neville, believe it or not, here I am agreeing with Gary Neville, saying it best, but he would know that hard-nosed approach, that, you know, fight, run all over the field, never stop, kind of hard-hitting. He has brought that back. Ten Hag has a reason. It's just small sample size does not get him any higher. And there's so many other guys that could be here that my honorable mention section is going to be a lot bigger. So 5th place for me is Ten Hag.
You said a lot, Breton, and I disagree with a lot that you said. And I'm going to say why, because I have him 4th. I do see him higher up because the manager I have in my number 5 is Unai Emery. I have to put Unai Emery in the top 5 list of Premier League managers because this man won 3 Europa Leagues in a row with Sevilla. That is unbelievable. And at Aston Villa, he convinces a free agent, Otelema. He convinces a Pau Torres. He improves massively in Ollie Watkins. Jacob Ramsey is an elite wonderkid with him. So I had to put Unai Emery in my top 5. And I have huge subs. I don't have De Zerbi in my top 5 list. And I know he got Europa League football with Brighton, but I do think the management at the board at the top of Brighton is elite too. And Aston Villa, before Unai Emery with Stevie G, that was a pure mess. Unai Emery was the huge variable that fixed it all. So I wanted to give credit to that.
If we're gonna talk about Villarreal or Almeria or you know, anyone else, we also have to talk about his last stint with Arsenal, which did not exactly end incredibly well. So that's where kind of my limitation was. And when it comes to it, I completely agree. I mean, we'll see how much of this was new manager bump when it comes down to it, but it certainly, with Unai Emery, has helped with his recruitment. Yep. And he has convinced Aston Villa to continue to spend for him. So much so that they might have just won a bidding war for Moussa Diaby for over 50 million. But and he's assembled. We've already talked about it in the past. He's assembled one hell of a squad. So my only reason, I guess, not putting him in there was that his sample size so far with Villa, I guess Premier League centric, was so much smaller. Believe it or not, my fight was whether or not to put a guy like Thomas Frank in there, who, let's be honest, does not have the same. Okay, what I'm trying to say is he has taken a club. I know he has taken a club and he has made it so much better. But there's a cap on Brentford.
Yes.
So anyway, 5th place for me, I got it. 5th place for you is Unai Emery. 5th place for me is Erik ten Hag, and you've got ten Hag in 4th.
I have ten Hag in 4th.
So why do you feel ten Hag is above Emery?
I feel he's above Emery because at Man United, he convinced a player like Casemiro at Man United. He managed to win a League Cup, a cup that I think Man United hadn't won anything in 5 years. Erik ten Hag immediately wins something, and he wins Champions League 2, which manages to convince a higher level players for this transfer window too. So I think in all these cases, to convince Onana, a finalist in the Champions League, that ain't easy. And Onana is convinced by Erik ten Hag because he was coached by him. He knows the potential of Man United. And a Man United team that wins the Premier League, you're immediately in the history books and recorded forever. And that's when Onana and Erik ten Hag and Lisandro Martinez, Varane, Casemiro, all of them, they believe will happen at Man United too. But they need Garnacho, Sancho, a striker like Rasmus Winter-Holland to step up big time for make that happen. So that is my number 4, Erik ten Hag. But I want to know yours.
It is interesting. Oh, yeah. I'll give you my number 4, but I am interested that you have Erik ten Hag at 4th. I mean, that means you rate even the slightest bit in his handling of the Cristiano Ronaldo situation, though. But he also just named Bruno Fernandes captain. Do you think that's the right move?
It's the right choice.
That's the right choice.
Bruno Fernandes, if he didn't have the captaincy ban, he would be moving on the pitch as a captain because that's what he does best. And Bruno Fernandes has improved massively with Erik ten Hag, in my point of view. Yeah. So I think it was the right choice. But who's your number 4? All right. And people, tell us your number 5 and 4 in the comments. We want to see.
Yes, please. But my number 4, and I'll keep this quicker, is Eddie Howe. Number 4, Eddie Howe. Okay. I have one limitation for Eddie Howe, but I am going to say it right now. He did wonders. So much so that he might even deserve to be maybe above this. He did wonders last season with a club that has not even stretched wholly the financial muscle that they could stretch. Now, that in and of itself, I think, is an issue because I don't know if Eddie Howe has any part in the recruitment, but it does seem weird that in a period of excess right now, we're spending. They have not yet landed, but they got Tonali. I got it. But to do what he did last season with their defense is infinitely more impressive to me than what Pep Guardiola did with Manchester City's defense, John Stones in particular and all that. But they are the best in the league, pound for pound. You had Dan Burn in that lineup, okay? You had Fabian Schär, for the most part, that we see him as wildly underrated, but nobody ever talked about him previous to this season.
I agree.
For Eddie Howe to be able to do that, pound for pound, euro for euro, whatever you want to call it, impressive. The Joelinton switcheroo, Isak starting to come out of his shell, Miguel Almiron being one of the top scorers in the Premier League is just unheard of in most of our minds. We all thought most of these guys were castaways. So I'm really interested to see what Eddie Howe, now he didn't win a trophy, but what Eddie Howe can do in the future and whether or not Newcastle can continue to get what has been limited shows of financial force, what they can do to continue to build around Eddie Howe and whether or not there's a ceiling on Eddie Howe and his development on the club. So that's why he's 4.
So Eddie Howe, I didn't put him in my top 5, and I agree with you. I think it can be seen as disrespectful, and I understand that. And my big reasoning with this is it was a great achievement for Newcastle to get top 4 in the Champions League. But I cannot imagine the variables behind the closed doors, that the objectives that these players get by just getting Champions League football itself. I do think that Eddie Howe is a huge factor for the success of Newcastle, but I can't discount the money factor too. And there's a huge accomplishment, huge objectives that these players get if they get to these objectives during the season. I'm sorry. So I agree. But I just wanted to say it was a hard one not to put him in my top 5. But
every one of the people above this, except maybe Klopp, Guardiola and Arteta have spent much more than Newcastle has so far.
Yes, I agree too.
Arteta in particular. So okay, I hear it. Eddie Howe. But yeah, it's tough. So who's your 3? Then?
I put Erik ten Hag and Unai Emery ahead of Eddie Howe because I've seen Unai Emery winning 3 Europa Leagues in a row, and I've seen Erik ten Hag having deep runs in the Champions League twice with 2 different teams of Ajax, and still succeeding and getting Eredivisie titles too. So my only doubt is the winning.
I didn't fully understand the assignment then, because I didn't know we were going that deep in terms of caliber, in terms of the past, setting him up for the future.
Managers. So just top 5
if that's the case, then Eddie Howe at Bournemouth was not exactly lighting everybody's world on fire.
And we don't have Pochettino
for that.
We do not have Pochettino in this top 5 because I don't have Pochettino because he didn't show that he could win a trophy at Tottenham, and I do believe he did an amazing job in terms of a rebuild, too at Southampton, but there was given moments that you would expect more at PSG and at Tottenham too. So I just wanted
Southampton was awesome. Southampton was amazing. That was the best. Yeah, Pochettino. I'm really interested to see what he'll do with Chelsea. But who's your 3? I got to know.
My 3 is Arteta, and I had a bit of a 2 and 3 discussion between myself making this decision, but I just believe Arteta, this is the season that we're going to have confirmations. It's the 4th season at Arsenal. Everybody is expecting the right results to come, and look, he has a unique style. He has a unique style, and I think Arteta, to convince a player like Declan Rice to join the team this summer shows that he is a top world-class manager. I know he still hasn't won a big trophy. He got an FA Cup immediately with the group of players that he didn't like. So let's see with a strong core, if he can go against Pep Guardiola. That is the huge boogeyman. And Arteta is one of the managers in the world that can beat Guardiola. I believe. Xavi, I believe a manager like Ancelotti can have that surprise factor. And Klopp and Arteta. So let's see. So I had to put
I mean, it's that vicious circle of the protege finally, beating the teacher, if you will. So I'm with you. I got Mikel Arteta in 3rd as well. The only thing I will add to that, because you said it well, the only thing I'm going to add to that is I am always going to be here for his type of coaching leadership. He's kind of sappy. He's almost like movie oriented in that sense, like, doing the funny drawings and trying to literally get to the core of every human being, not just player, but every human being that plays for him. I am here for that every day of the week. Okay. Because it's something you can always get in the corner of. And does that win trophies in the future? I don't know, but he is convinced, and normally insanely stingy, ownership group. He has convinced the front office. He has convinced everybody, or back office. He's convinced everybody at Arsenal that he is the man that can lead them into hopefully lifting the Premier League trophy at some point in the future, and who knows beyond that. So, like you said, recruitment, all that good stuff. I am here mostly for that core feeling of what Mikel Arteta brings to the game. And we have to remember that what he has accomplished so far has been with one of the youngest, if not the youngest, squad in the Premier League. And that squad, believe it or not, has also gotten younger.
It's true.
With the sale of Granit Xhaka to Bayer Leverkusen. So I have Arteta in 3rd as well. And I am excited to see what the next phase of this project brings.
Arsenal have a great style of play. We can see that. Yep. And then they have the extensions for the future, a core for the future with Saliba, Saka, Martinelli, all extending their contracts. We have to give credit to Arteta because he's the man that is managing to make that happen. And congratulations to Edu, that is the decision making behind everything with all this. And that duo of Edu and Arteta, if they win the Premier League, they will be credited the right way too. So our top two.
I think I know your
two.
two.
No surprise.
Yeah.
I think it's no surprise. So Klopp, we agree. Klopp is the second best manager in the Premier League. My way of seeing it, he's the only one to win a Premier League against Pep Guardiola in his last 6 years in the Premier League. And Klopp did it with a core of players and with a cheaper team than Man City too. So we saw a midfield with Fabinho, Henderson, and Wijnaldum going against every top team in Europe. They won a Champions League. That is immense. And just look how Sadio Mane is right now. I do believe Sadio Mane is a world-class player. I really do believe that in the right system. But since he left Liverpool, it doesn't seem like that was the best choice for him. So I do think it was inevitable because Liverpool couldn't pay all the salaries for all the strikers they have. But still, it just shows levels and Wijnaldum too. He's not doing better than when he leaves. And look at Henderson. They might be leaving to Saudi Arabia. But that's another talk. But I do believe that Jurgen Klopp is the second best manager. But if Arteta wins the Premier League this season, I put Arteta in the number 2 position of best managers in the Premier League ahead of Jurgen Klopp if he wins the Premier League. Just want to say.
Fair enough. Well, once again, I mean, you're not going to get any disagreement here for what you said, sadly. I know that doesn't make for a great podcast, us just agreeing with each other all the time. But listen, Jurgen Klopp, he's a squad builder. He's a culture builder. He's a guy, as you mentioned, he builds a system. And as you also mentioned, most people do not leave Liverpool to go on and have ridiculously successful careers. They wind up literally having their best times inside Jurgen Klopp's system. What I'm going to bring up that's more recency effect here is Jurgen Klopp had every reason to go off the rails last season. Every reason to go completely berserk because of the injuries, because of the depth, because of things that were being said about him. He could have fallen into a hole and not come out. And I'm sure there was a part of him that wanted to. But Jurgen Klopp has already taken to it. He's reignited himself. He has come in and he has said we have to address these concerns, whether it's depth, it's the midfield, it's other places. He's got everybody's backing, and Jurgen Klopp is back in the game. We also have to remember, if we're going to go way back into history, Jurgen Klopp is the only person that has beaten Bayern. That's it. That's the end of the sentence.
Oh.
He's the only person that has beaten Bayern.
I thought we had a connection.
When he last did it. No, when he did it with Borussia Dortmund back in the day before making his move kind of up the ranks and over to the Premier League. So as a culture builder, I think Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola are two of the best. And Arteta's getting up there. But Jurgen Klopp, in my opinion, basically is just phenomenal because he took a Liverpool...
I agree. We agree.
That he turned a Liverpool around.
So
he really did.
And number one, we both have Pep Guardiola for the same reasons, but maybe more dominant than much more dominant than Pep Guardiola. Than Jurgen Klopp. Guardiola wins 5 Premier League titles in 6 years, changes the culture on the pitch and off the pitch with the academy football being a lot more invested. I do know that Man City were planning that, but having the right philosophy, the style of play, the involvement from the youngsters in the first team, like Foden, Rico Lewis, Cole Palmer, all developing the right way, that is with a man at the helm that knows what to do. That is Pep Guardiola. So I wanted to give credit to that. But Guardiola can be bad in other things. And for Bayern, I have seen comments of like Schweinsteiger, Philipp Lahm saying that he wasn't beneficial in the long term of things for Bayern Munich and the German national team. That can be a controversial take, but he is the best manager in the Premier League, Guardiola, and in the world too. So I wanted to give.
I think the other negative, because obviously yes, Pep Guardiola is my number one, but the other negative that people throw out there when we tout Pep Guardiola is, well, he's never inherited a side that doesn't have, great or growing infrastructure, that doesn't already have a bevy of world-class players, that doesn't have endless resources for the most part, or a culture of dominance previous to it. Okay, those are fair points, but there is no doubt that Pep Guardiola makes great players world class and world class players even more world class.
Exactly.
Just, case in point, Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland coming in, that could have not necessarily been a disaster, but there was a lot of us that were expecting maybe a little bit of a transition here. No, the guy wins a treble. The guy wins a treble, and he pays attention to detail.
Exactly.
Okay, he made little switches that he doesn't get enough credit for during the season, in terms of whether it's John Stones, whether it's the usage of Ake and Akanji. There's so many different things that he does that he doesn't get credit for. And as you mentioned, a nice little feather in his cap has been the usage of that academy to actually fund or maybe keep it in line with financial fair play over the past few years, because for 27 Premier League minutes, he has unloaded 8 academy players. 8 academy players if Carlos Borges goes to West Ham for over 95 million euros. That doesn't happen anywhere else but maybe Chelsea. If you can show me where it's happened elsewhere, then fine. But that's 27 Premier League minutes that he has gotten almost 100 million for. It basically paid for Jack Grealish in some respects.
That's true.
So Pep Guardiola deserves a whole lot more for that attention to detail. Because what is he going to do? Like,
I completely agree.
He's not going to take over Brentford. He's going to take over the class of the class. So I don't get that negative about him. So Pep Guardiola, number 1.
I agree. The negative about him. What do you mean you don't get the negative about him?
Well, the only negative that pervades everybody saying Pep Guardiola is not the one of the best of all time is that simple thing, and that he only inherits great clubs. They were great before he got there, which I don't ascribe to that, even if there is a grain of truth to it.
That's the people that have never done man management in their life. That's the people that have never done that, that they say that. The attention to detail of this man is unreal, and completely agree with all your points that you expressed. But people, tell us your top 5 in the comments. I'm going to say my top 5. My top 5 of best managers in the Premier League. I have number 5, Unai Emery. I have number 4, Erik ten Hag. 3, Arteta. 2, Klopp. And number 1, Pep Guardiola. It saddens me not to put Eddie Howe and De Zerbi, but watch the YouTube video on YouTube, okay, of best managers top 5. We explain all our reasoning on our top 5 people.
So the last shout out I have before we move on to this is Thomas Frank. Just simply Thomas Frank. Really quickly, you got to say, here's your reminder that Thomas Frank was the only person to win both home and away against Manchester City and Pep Guardiola last season in the Premier League. Thomas Frank.
De Zerbi didn't win.
No, I don't think so. No, he won 2. Frank won 2-1 away, and he won 1-0 at home on the final day of the season. Which, okay, there might be a little caveat to that, but Thomas Frank has taken a tiny little team from the Championship, and he's brought them up to 9th place, I believe, last season. So he deserves quite a lot more credit, not top 5 credit, but if we're gonna name some people out there, Thomas Frank has got to get some. Oh, and I believe he's been operating Thomas Frank with Brentford. He has been operating with the lowest wage bill in all of the Premier League.
I'd say Mark Silva for say Thomas Frank. Like what?
Yeah, but
like
getting
Palhinha, like that was a Mark Silva choice. So it's
and yet he still finished one rung below.
Exactly.
Fulham finished 1 below.
They just got promoted. And
Brentford's paying less. Well, Brentford's only been in the league two full seasons.
We both know that Brentford, in terms of the top, they're great management and great decision making. But I'm just saying,
doing it with limited resources is incredibly impressive. And what's even more impressive is Thomas Frank was not hired originally as the head coach. He was promoted from within. He was brought in as an assistant coach after time at Brøndby, and he has worked his way up. I just want, someone with limited resources to get a little more just due than probably what we give. I agree Marco Silva had a great season.
Limited resources too. So I just wanted to say that. And please tell us your top 5 in the comment section. And don't forget to like this video if you're listening until now. FC Wonderkid podcast. We must talk about Wonderkids, and we will in this topic. It's top under 23 Wonderkids 11 for next season. And I'll be talking to you about last season's players because we have to talk about the past to predict the future. But I want to see your comments down below expressing who is the best Wonderkids in the Premier League, the must-talks that we got to do. And if you're listening until now, like this video. But yes, I'm curious, Breton. I'm curious.
Yep.
Who do you have at goal?
Well, I believe there's only
next
one,
season.
if I'm not mistaken.
For
right?
next season, there's two. Next season, there's two possibility.
Okay. Who's the second? I got the first one at Brighton. Who's the second?
James Trafford at Burnley.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, right. I'm sorry, that just got done. You're right. You are right. Well, I'm still gonna go with Bart Verbruggen. I'm gonna go with Bart Verbruggen.
We got the same one.
He has not yet been named the #1, but Robert Sanchez is very clearly on the outs. It's whether or not forgetting the other guy's name, who did very well for them near the end of the season. But Bart Verbruggen, I watched him quite a bit last season in the Pro League. Really enjoyed him. I think Brighton's gonna love him. They did it for a decent cost. He is definitely going to be one. If he doesn't win the #1 right away, I believe he will be #1 by the end of the season. So my goalkeeper is Bart Verbruggen, but you're going to pick James Trafford.
No. Yeah. I'm going to pick Bart Verbruggen too. Because I believe when Brighton signed Bart Verbruggen from Anderlecht is for two reasons.
Yeah.
Immediate impact to play and start, and to maybe sell on in the future as the most expensive goalkeeper in the history of football. This is the potential of the kid, okay? He's great.
Yeah.
I saw him in the under-21 Euros for the Netherlands. He's got potential. Yep. And I do believe that a team like Brighton, when they have potential, we can see miracles like we see with many other talents that we'll be talking in this video. Comments, predict the talents that we will be expressing. Maybe not in our 11, but definitely we'll be talking about these Wonderkids. But I'm like you. I'm with Bart Verbruggen. But okay. If I'll start with my defense. You started with the goalie. Yeah. I'll start with my defense. So I want to say my defense of last season, of the Premier League players right now, and the one for next season, because it's going to be bold choices. And the reasoning why, I don't have a player there. People are just going to... This is going to be a massacre, Breton. So, my defense for the next season of under-23 talented players in the Premier League, I have in goal Bart Verbruggen. I have at left back Milos Kerkez. Watch out for him at Bournemouth. I have Timber. I have... Timber Gvardiol. I have Gvardiol if he signs for City. Aye, Timber, that's 5. Huge snub. And Saliba next to Gvardiol. At the right back spot, I have Reece James. So I have Bart Verbruggen, Milos Kerkez, Gvardiol, Saliba, and Reece James. Expecting that Gvardiol is going to Man City. Come on, Fabrizio Romano. You didn't screw up that deal. It's still going to happen. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, and sad shout out to Wesley Fofana, whose season ends before it even begins. It's just so depressing. And Chelsea, once again, gonna have to figure out what to do with this. So I don't envy Pochettino right now, and I also don't envy Wesley Fofana. But best of spirits to Wesley Fofana, and hopefully comes back stronger. But okay, I like it, and we agree in a lot of ways. I think we need to have a bigger conversation about how Bournemouth is pulling in this clout, this transfer clout, because my left back of defenders, or my left back, I'm sorry,
for next season.
My defense, U23 Premier League defense for next season is at left back Milos Kerkez, like you, going to Bournemouth, and Ivan Fresneda might join him in the future on that right side. We'll see. My center back pairing is William Saliba, and my other center back is Sven Botman. Don't think he got enough credit for how well he transitioned as part of Newcastle last season, and how big he's going to be for Newcastle this season. And my right back, like you, is Reece James, but I'm going to throw a special shout out there. Pedro Porro had a pretty bad start to life at Spurs, and then he really came on strong near the end of the season. I'm going to throw in Pedro Porro to have a very good season for Spurs under Big Ange, because I think Big Ange is going to do good things for Spurs this season.
Completely agree with that statement. Pedro Porro was stated as the worst signing in Premier League history by some people live. And that was a mistake to do, because Pedro Porro should be called up to the Spanish national team because he's got that level and dog in him. I love that show. But I just want to say, my defense of last season under 23 players in the Premier League, I have in goal. I think I have Meslier. Then I have Reece James. I have Levi Colville and Saliba. and then I have Tyreek Mitchell. But I wanted to say this talk on Levi Colville. Yeah, but Kerkez will be much better than him next season. But I wanted to say Levi Colville. I think we should just focus a bit on Levi Colville, because if Levi Colville goes to the right club, no doubt in my mind, he's in the best under-23 lineup of the Premier League. The right club is working out at Chelsea or maybe staying at Brighton. What would you do, Brenton, if you were Levi Colville?
Well,
go to Liverpool.
As of right now, as of Wesley Fofana's sad injury again, to be honest, it looks more and more likely that Pochettino should try and keep Levi Colville there. I actually think he should keep Levi Colville there, start him for the most part, or give him as many games as possible this particular season, and do it in expense of bringing in Moises Caicedo from Brighton. Leave him alone. Get him next season if you can. But ultimately, Levi Colville, I think, is more important for Chelsea than Moises Caicedo is at this moment in time.
They need Caicedo. Look how many midfielders left Chelsea. And I know there's other options in the market for midfielders, but it just makes so much sense to get Caicedo with Enzo.
That's my own point. That's my only point. Because if you're not going to put up or shut up with Brighton's asking price, you've already taken a lot from Brighton. If you're not going to play their game and pay their $100 million, then by all means, and you're not going to let go of Colville too, then I don't know what to tell you.
Chelsea,
but I do believe that.
I love that take. Chelsea have taken so much from Brighton. They've taken Graham Potter. They've taken Cucurella. Billy Gilmore, though, was taken to the other side. But Chelsea did want to let him go. And now they're going to take Caicedo. This is a robbery. Day-night robbery by Todd Boehly.
And the funny thing is everybody papers over that, right? Everyone papers over that simply because Roberto De Zerbi actually worked out.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, we all know how that could have gone. But yes, we have one of the rarest sightings ever where Roberto De Zerbi takes over after a relatively beloved Graham Potter and one that did really, really great things at Brighton. We can't discount that. And he makes the team better and actually more attractive.
But Levi
more attractive than Brighton previous. But yes, Levi Colville should stay at Chelsea. That's my thought. And he will get time this season and he will be played properly by Pochettino. He will stay at Chelsea. That's my guess.
That's a great shout. That's a great shout. But people, tell us your thoughts about Levi Colville, that we all think he's got world-class potential, but we agree that it's in the right club. So midfield. Midfield. Yeah. I think, midfield. I'm going to snub a player that I rate so high. And I'm going to explain why, because people are going to maybe... I don't think they should hate on me because of it, because I'll explain why. But it's just sad. I have the same midfield of last season to this season. But my midfield, my best midfield of under 23 in the 4-3-3 system of the Premier League, I would play Caicedo with Enzo, double pivot, and I would put ahead of them Phil Foden. I rate so high Szoboszlai, but Foden has that experience in the Premier League, and he's got that dog in him right now because Gundogan is left, and he's got to prove himself as a top 5 under 23 youngster. That in the Champions League, he had glimpses. But if he's going to be talked next to Vinicius, next to Haaland, next to all these big names, Phil Foden has to perform as a world-class player in an established team like Man City. So that's why I have this midfield. But again, Szoboszlai, it hurts me not to put them in this team. Hurts me.
Yeah. I'm going to do the same to you. I'm going to do the same to our listeners because I feel it's necessary. Szoboszlai is probably going to make us all look silly by the end of the season. But my midfield... Exactly same double pivot, Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. But I got to throw Jacob Ramsey in there. I think he can take his game up another level for Aston Villa, especially with who they're bringing in. And the amount of strengthening and a full season under Unai Emery, I think he was one of the better U21s in the entire league last season, let alone U23. But Jacob Ramsey for that added
bold statement alert.
Took last season. So,
bold statement alert. Ramsey, you're putting Jacob Ramsey ahead. This is a bold statement alert right here. You're putting Jacob Ramsey ahead of Phil Foden and Szoboszlai.
Well, I also treat Foden as part of the attack too.
The trio of wingers. So you don't have Martinelli. My gosh, Brenton.
Martinelli did not win the treble.
Oh, but Martinelli got 15 goals as a winger.
He did get 15 goals. He did get 15 goals. You're right. You're right. And if Foden was called upon more, if he was called upon more, he probably would have scored 15 goals as well.
I do agree with that, but I don't take him out. Oh my gosh, Francis. So let's go with the midfield and the trio of fours, because you might understand. Because at the left wing, the best under-23 player to play at the left wing in the Premier League, it's unanimous, it's Bukayo Saka. The player that impresses me the most every time I watch England play. He's that star boy. And that extension at Arsenal is crucial and vital, just like they got Martinelli and Saliba. Bukayo Saka is my left wing. Striker. I think we both have the same too. The best goal scorer, the top goal scorer, the best goal scorer in the world, the top goal scorer in the Premier League and in the Champions League. The one to break the record of most goals scored in one season in the Premier League. It's Erling Haaland, the best striker in the Premier League. At right wing, I have Martinelli. I keep it simple.
Fair enough.
I keep it simple because this trio of fours, they just score goals. And Mudryk, that's the player. I want to see Mudryk maybe being in the talk of this shout out of front trio of under 23. I want to see Mudryk better next season. I want to see Noni Madueke better next season. Garnacho better next season. All these players should be in the talk of best under 23 and make a difficult decision. But I think right now the Arsenal boys, Anthony too, the Arsenal boys have it ahead. Martinelli and Saka.
Yeah, and I'm 100% in agreement with that. I'm just throwing Phil Foden out there because of his importance to the squad, even if it is, more so in a versatile role. So Phil Foden, Erling Haaland, and Bukayo Saka is my front three. But obviously, Gabriel Martinelli last season, if we're talking about last season, he deserves to be on there. But if we're talking about who I'm watching for this season, Phil Foden is, especially if Bernardo Silva, they don't play the same role or anything like that. But in terms of importance and stature and the expectation to step up in big games, all that goes out the window if Bernardo Silva leaps. Okay, Phil Foden is going to have to fill that kind of existential role in Pep Guardiola's side. So that's why I bring him up for next season, unless of course they sign somebody out there of his quality, of Bernardo Silva's quality, which you have already said to me. And that is virtually impossible.
Bernard Silva, I think the only player that can replace Bernard Silva, if it's going to happen, and I don't think he gets to that level, is Nicolo Barella. I understand the comments on that, because that's a player that when he has the ball in his feet, it's like glue. Impossible to take, knows how to read the game very well, and would work out well with a coach like Guardiola. But I don't think he's as good going forward and scoring goals than Bernard Silva. I think he's a step ahead. And that's why that's vital for Man City. But you put Jacob Ramsey ahead of Dominic Szoboszlai and the head of Olise.
I honestly don't think he gets enough credit for what he did last season. I really don't. I honestly don't. If you're going to put Unai Emery in there, based on that small sliver of hope of him inheriting a badly beaten down Villa team, and bringing them all the way to 7th place in UEFA Conference League, then you got to give Jacob Ramsey a whole lot of momentum, or a whole lot of love for him being one of the guys to get them there. Because Kamara was injured a lot of the season. There were a lot of injuries that Aston Villa had to actually go through, they still got it done. So Jacob Ramsey, for me, at his age, he's doing a wonderful, wonderful thing. Now, Dominic Szoboszlai is definitely one to watch this season, and I am not that stupid to think. It's a game of inches, or even if that's the right way to say it. But I love both of them. But I really just want to bring up, before I forget to say this, I am really, really excited about watching the striker crop of players this coming season. I mean, Erling Haaland, having to put him there so begrudgingly because he's so damn good. It papers over Alexander Isak. It papers over Evan Ferguson, Julian Alvarez, João Pedro and Julio Enciso at Brighton. I know are not necessarily strikers per se, but Nicholas Jackson at Chelsea. These are all players, obviously, we want to watch this season. I mean, we are chomping at the bit. Armand Broja may be having an impact. I am chomping at the bit just to watch these guys play some football this season. So that's why it's hard to say Erling Haaland and striker when you want to talk about all the guys below Erling Haaland.
And we still might have Rasmus Winter Højlund signing to the Premier League too, with all the list that you've expressed. But Man United, shout out to them, having Garnacho, Amad Diallo, great players. Interested to see what's going to happen in the future. But I want to give special credit to a team that knows how to use their youngsters. That is Brighton, that you mentioned. Brighton will have Bart Verbruggen. Maybe Levi Koval. Let's see what happens. But Brighton next season will for sure have Julio Enciso, Evan Ferguson, Bart Verbruggen, Billy Gilmore, Buena Notte, that will have a huge impact in my opinion. And let's see what happens with Caicedo. But regardless, they are elite with their recruitment, and I wanted to give a special credit to that. And Arsenal, I said 3 players in my best. These 3 players, Martinelli, Saka, and Saliba, they should be in the under-23s of the Premier League in any debate, in my view. And Arsenal has extended the contracts of the 3. So that speaks levels of Arteta ball and the fact that they have done this. And I wanted to say, too, Lavia, Romeo Lavia, I think deserves a special credit too, because he's 19. Onana was very special too at Everton. I think Nathan Patterson, James Gardner, we can mention them too briefly. But Lavia is a player that I understand him going for 50 million. And I think it's a huge mistake from last season, that one of the only mistakes that the City group has done in the last years, that it was to sign Calvert Phillips and to sell on Romeo Lavia. Man City should have done that, and I really want to give credit to Lavia, because at the right team, he could be a starter in this team. So
all right. Well, I gotta throw some shout outs here, because come on, this is our wheelhouse. We're FC Wonderkid for a reason. You just mentioned a whole bunch, but there are actually some others. In midfield, Danilo for Nottingham Forest, I thought had a great influence near the end of the season. I'm going to watch him wholeheartedly. I mean, I loved him. You and I talked about him when he was at Palmeiras. I'm really, really, really excited to see what he can do in a full season with Nottingham Forest. And then on top of that, Michael Olise for what he did for Crystal Palace last season, even with Vieira getting sacked and all that good stuff. He was up there with the assists. He's just in a really deep winger U23, type of situation here. And then at center back, I gotta throw out Ilya Zabarny. Bournemouth right now, in most mid-table or lower-table Premier League teams, are showing the clout of Premier League in the transfer market by hijacking Milos Kerkez, by potentially getting Ivan Fresneda at Bournemouth. But they got one last season for about 20 million. Ilya Zabarny, and he was injured for the most part, but he is not injured this season. So I would expect him to have a very good season for Bournemouth at center back. And it's one that I'm really, really going to be watching. And then I got to have just one more shout out. Just give me one more, because I think this is the season that Chris Richards breaks through for Crystal Palace at center back or at fullback. And please let it be so, because in the time that he has played for the U.S. men's national team, he has shown that he is incredibly, incredibly good. And I think he's good enough to be good for Crystal Palace. No, he's not good enough to be on this 11 right now, but he is one that, as a U.S. fan, I will be watching, wholeheartedly hoping he breaks through. Hopefully that happens.
That's a good list. That's a good shout, Chris Richards. Let's see if it works out, and I think it might happen. I like that. I like what you're saying with that. I just want to say my top 5 too. My top 5 under 23 youngsters in the Premier League. I have at number 5, I got Phil Foden. Number 4, I've got Saliba. Number 3, I got Enzo Fernandez. And my number 2 is Saka. And number 1, the best goal scorer in the world, top 3 Ballon d'Or contender, Erling Haaland. Okay, I think that's the top 5. But leave in the comment section your top 5 below. We want to see and like this video if you're listening until now. But the 11. The 11. Yes. So my best 11 with Gvardiol. My best 11 with Joško Gvardiol signing for Man City has... my best 11 of under 23 players with Gvardiol signing for City has Bart Verbruggen in goal, Milos Kerkez at left back with Gvardiol, Saliba at Reece James at right back, and my trio in midfields I've got Enzo and Caicedo double pivot with Phil Foden ahead of them. Hard to snub Dominic Szoboszlai, and my trio of forwards I got Martinelli, 15 goals in the Premier League, Saka, best left winger in the Premier League maybe, And in goal, a top goal scorer, I've got Erling Haaland. Easy choice. In goal, scoring goals. So Erling Haaland.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's generally not the goalkeeper that has a good game when Erling Haaland's around. All right, my Premier League U23 11 of players to watch this coming season. We're the same: goalkeeper Bart Verbruggen at Brighton. All across the board defense, you got Milos Kerkez at Bournemouth, William Saliba at Arsenal, Sven Botman at Newcastle, because I don't think that Josko Gvardiol deal, I think it might get over the line. We'll see.
It will happen.
Reece James, right back, Chelsea. If he gets injured again, watch out for Malo Gusto. My midfield is Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, and I'm throwing a nice little wrench in the system here. I'm saying Jacob Ramsey for what he did for Aston Villa last season, and yes, I believe Szoboszlai is going to be good. Don't at me. And my forwards are Phil Foden. We've got Erling Haaland, and we've got Bukayo Saka. I'm sorry, Martinelli. We'll see if you can do it again this season, but you were amazing last season.
And I think Martinelli will end up in his career becoming the all-time leading goal scorer for a Brazilian player in one season in the Premier League. That record is held by Firmino with 15 goals, and Martinelli equaled this season. But he'll surpass it one of the next ones.
pound for pound, already one of the craziest finds in Arsenal history.
For 6 million? Unbelievable.
Yeah. Based on where they plucked him from, I mean, it's an absolute insane feat of scouting.
I completely agree. But people, tell us your 11s in the comment section, and if you like this video, don't forget to go bold. So, go bold it is, but we've got a big topic. I wanted to mention the Saudi League ain't playing around. Oh, no. Saudi League? No, sorry. Who isn't playing around? I'm sorry. MLS. MLS. Because they're not playing around, but who isn't playing around the MLS? In his debut is the clutch man in the MLS right now. That is Lionel Messi. Yep. Lionel Messi went bold, and in his debut already has amazing memories for Inter Miami fans. He scored a clutch goal. Clutch goal in the extra time period. One of the best moments I've seen in MLS history already. And it's just his first game. Oh my days, he had Serena Williams, LeBron James, Kim Kardashian, everybody watching, David Beckham crying because he saw someone bend it better than him. And it's now bended like Messi. It's not bended like Beckham. It's bended like Messi at Inter Miami. And that's what he's there to do in his first game.
Well, I'm going to throw this out there. On the same day that David Beckham debuted back in 2007 and changed the course of Major League Soccer, Lionel Messi also debuted on July, 21st. So it's really poetic that 16 years between the two, and that David Beckham has his hands in potentially both phases of Major League Soccer, because we will remember this, and I know I'm stealing this, and it's really not that original, but we will remember this as before Messi and after Messi in Major League Soccer in terms of growth, whether it's revenue, in terms of growth as in eyeballs, in terms of making this Major League Soccer and the product that Messi brings to the table available to more than 100 countries on the planet. There's exponential expectations to this with the lead up to all the different things coming with the 2026 World Cup being the feather in that cap. But I also don't want to sit here and get sucked into some conversation about the Saudi League versus MLS, because let's be honest, Alex, both of them can coexist with completely different thoughts in mind.
Yes, completely. But the impact of Messi in Inter Miami hadn't won a game in 2 months. Okay, there were League Cup games, MLS games, and the variable is clear. The substitution is clear. Lionel Messi coming on and Busquets coming on. That's the change, and they beat Cruz Azul. With that impact of Messi. That is unbelievable. And even Inter Miami right now on IG, on Instagram, they have more followers than Internacional de Milan. How is that possible? Inter Miami in such a short period of time.
And like all but 2 NFL teams, which is just insane for a sport that is still growing and will never, in probably in the next 20 years, if longer than that, ever rival the NFL or even the NBA in terms of popularity, but Messi's going to get them pretty close to there.
In the United States, because worldwide, the difference is clear.
Exactly. There are more than one ways to a pathway to growth. That's for dang sure.
Exactly.
But the one thing you got to give a little love to Sergio Busquets, who doesn't get all the plaudits, but also was probably one of the reasons why Inter Miami didn't go down 5-0, because he actually started quarterbacking some really nice attacking moves against Cruz Azul, who is also not very good to start this season. But listen, one of the coolest things that I plucked out of all this was not just Lionel Messi running over to his family afterwards, which is exactly what he wants. That's exactly what he's at Miami for, okay? It was more so him coming off the field, coming on the field and making his debut, and giving a quick little hug to Benja Kramaski, who is the crown right now of Inter Miami's academy, okay, who is also part of the Argentine youth setup, although we're hoping we can bring him back to the good side, bring him back to the American youth side. But seeing that was incredibly poetic to me, because that's what I want this to be. This is all about building infrastructure, building a MLS that can foster the growth of American soccer for years and years and years to come, not just one fleeting moment. That is not a knock against Saudi Arabia per se. It's just a different tactic and a different way to get there. Lionel Messi will do more. I mean, watching my 3-year-old kid watch the screen this morning and having me put that highlight on repeat, knowing what Inter Miami is because he's been to the Union games.
Yes.
It is so amazing to me that is where we're at right now.
And you'll be watching Messi. You'll be watching Messi live. But Philadelphia Union against Inter Miami, that is mad. But I do believe that there's a difference between both leagues. But we'll talk more about the Saudi League in the future. And watch episode 115 if you want to see that song. But mentioning Inter Miami, I think it's great in terms of marketing for the league, for the country, because US will be hosting the FIFA Club World Cup in 2025. You guys are going to be hosting the Copa America joint. Okay, that's insane. And you're going to be hosting the World Cup in 2026. That's going to be massive. Everybody's going to be going to the States. It's going to be amazing. And Lionel Messi is now beginning that hype towards getting that. Make a crescendo towards that. And that is beautiful to see. And he is a happy man doing so. Because Inter Miami convinced Lionel Messi because he loves Miami and he loves a project that he sees playing on the same team with Busquets, with Suarez, with Iniesta, with Jordi Alba. I believe all these players will be at Inter Miami in the next year. And that is beautiful, beautiful to see. But in terms of sporting expectations, I do not know in the FIFA Club World Cup if this is a team to win it. But definitely to create an impact, it's beautiful to see. And I do believe they'll be one of the teams involved in the tournament. So I like it. I love it. I'm going to be watching it.
They got a lot of growing to do. And if people don't know what this tournament is that he just debuted in, it's Leagues Cup, which is essentially just a World Cup that first year in existence between all of the clubs in Liga MX and all of the clubs in MLS. So Mexico versus the USA and Canada. And they fight it out, duke it out. They shut down the league for a whole month. And they fight it out and see who's the winner. And that's really, really interesting because it gives him kind of a lesser pressure environment to kind of get involved in things with Messi. But what I care most about when it comes down to this, and the future of this is more so who we're attracting to the league. Busquets makes sense. Jordi Alba, that makes sense. Great. But I care more about the Facundo Farias. I care more about the Diego Gomez's. I care more about the young Americans that get promoted, like Noah Allen, who played in defense for them, and Benja Kramaski, and whether or not they can soak in as much of this as possible. And you're creating a bigger stage that they have to perform in that will likely not rival the Champions League, UEFA Champions League, in a very, very long time, but will get us closer to dealing with that type of stage. And Liga MX also makes out in a really, really good way for this too, because more eyeballs will be on that as well. And that already is one of the most popular leagues attendance-wise on the planet. They don't get enough credit for it, right?
I agree.
So it is so interesting to me where this can go. But one thing is for sure, that they're doing it not with a mind to just blow up all of the spending in the league, but instead to build. It's part of the incremental process, and you got to remember, Leo Messi, bringing him to MLS was a 4-year process.
Yes.
With so many, dips and dives and turns and whatnot, and they masterfully executed, giving Messi space to live his life, to make his decisions, to pounce on the opportunities, and not pressure him into this. Exactly. He mentioned he wanted to play in the United States, and they're providing him the opportunity, even if it isn't the perfect one right now. They're a crappy team.
Well,
as it stands.
He just started.
But they will improve.
He just started. But I get you. I get you. And I like the show with Liga Mexicana because the players in Mexico do earn a very good salary. I know players that leave Portugal, Primera Liga, to go to the Mexican League. There's a big example with Steven Eustáquio that he did return now, and he's playing for Porto back in the Primera Liga. But he went to Club America because he saw it as a really good market, a market that loves football, and a team with great history that Club America has. But great shout out that you did there. But people, tell us down below your reactions to Lionel Messi's goal. What was your emotions, and what are your expectations for the MLS 2 in the future? Like this video for more videos just like this. But Saudi League ain't playing, Breton. It's now.
No, they're not.
It's not. It's now or never. That's the feeling I'm getting, because I even see that suggestion of Kylian Mbappé, if he wants. Al Hilal have offered on the table 400 million for 1 season, and then agreeing for him to go to Real Madrid. That is bold, man. And paying PSG the 200 million. They ain't playing.
Yeah.
They want immediate results, and that's what they're getting. And I want to say the move of Mahrez is big. I know that Benzema is huge. Benzema is still a great player. Kanté is still a great player. Ronaldo is still a great player. Jota, Ruben Neves. But Mahrez, for me, is one of the greatest players I've seen in the Premier League this decade. And to convince a player to leave a European treble to go to the Saudi League, that is immense and bold. And to a team that just got promoted. Like...
Yeah, Al Ahly, which is, I mean, I think if I have to pick a squad, if you're asking me to pick a squad for the Saudi League this season, I'm going to pick Al Ahly. Why?
The front trio?
Because if you land, you got Firmino up top, you've got Saint-Maximin if you get that over the line on one side, and you've got Mahrez on the other side. I'm already in terms of being entertained. I don't care if you have a defense. If you can score 5 or 6 goals a game, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
But listen. One thing is for sure, this is not done yet, okay? The expectation of the Saudi League was to bring in 3 big stars per the 4 clubs, and then bring a whole nother, squad of stars and kind of evenly distribute them all across some of the other teams. But when it comes down to it, it's whether or not, this sustains itself and moves into it. That doesn't matter. There's no doubt that in the Saudi League's history, that this will be a year of heightened attendance. I mean, we saw Al Nassr's attendance is up over 100% since Ronaldo came. And we'll continue to do that. And now you add to that Al Hilal, you add to that Al Ahly, you add to that, I'm already missing one other that I'm forgetting.
Al
Nasser. How am I forgetting that one?
Al Ittihad.
And Al Ittihad, that's the one I forgot. Yep. And they're the ones, believe it or not, to beat, if you're asking my opinion. But they will have one of the most entertaining leagues, obviously, in their league's existence. And they likely should win the AFC Champions League again. I believe it's Al Hilal that is the reigning champion. So I am here to continue this, but there is no doubt that Saudi Arabia is attempting one thing, and they're doing really well at it. They are disrupting the transfer market of world football.
Exactly.
Because we saw it in the form of Moussa Diaby. Moussa Diaby probably would have gone to Aston Villa for maybe 15, 16, maybe 20 million less. And Al Nassr turned that into a little bit of a bidding war.
It's true.
So it puts the Premier League's feet to the fire, whether you like the reasons behind it, and we can have other podcasts about the reasons behind it. There is no doubt that this Saudi League is now a transfer disruptor, and that ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So it's gonna be interesting.
I agree totally. And just to give people at home, just to give an image of the teams that are being assembled. And Al Hilal, we have a team now with Ruben Neves in midfield, with Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, with Koulibaly right there. Marega is still there. So this is a team with great potential in my view. And Jorge Jesus that was managing them years back, before all the Flamengo hype, before Flamengo actually, he was at Al Hilal. So he is back at the helm. And then we have Al Hilal, that has Edouard Mendy in goal, and this front trio that we just spoke, Alan San-Maxime, Firmino, and Mahrez. That is so fun to watch. I completely agree with you. Then we have Al Ittihad that has convinced Benzema, Ballon d'Or winner still. They've convinced Kante, that has bought a third division club in Belgium. And they've convinced Jota to leave Celtic, a 24-year-old that must be attracted by the project and by the eyeballs that will be in the Saudi League. And my last one I want to say is Al Nassr, that has Cristiano Ronaldo, Sekou Fofana, they've convinced Brozovic, and I do believe that they will convince Sadio Mane instead of getting Moussa Diaby. I believe Sadio Mane will be signing for Al Nassr. But the point I was going to get to is Cristiano Ronaldo in Portugal after a game. I don't recall the exact game. I think it was Benfica. He said that the Saudi League is ahead of many European teams. Cristiano Ronaldo stated this, and I wanted to say, Cristiano Ronaldo, right now, I disagree totally that the Saudi League is ahead of the Eredivisie, ahead of the La Liga, of all the leagues but the Premier League, like you said. But in 3 to 5 years' time, if you keep convincing players like Milinkovic-Savic, if you're convincing players like Ruben Neves, Jota, Benzema, players that Mahrez that have immediate impact, I do believe they can be ahead of Primeira Liga and Eredivisie, but La Liga and Premier League, 100% I don't think they will be ahead, the Saudi League. So in a five-year period of time. And I do believe he's wrong to say that right now, at this stage. But he did say that they would be a top 5 league before they were even getting all these players. And I do agree that Ronaldo is the biggest variable for, well, Cristiano Ronaldo and the money attractiveness is the variables that are attracting all these players. But if Ronaldo wasn't there, they wouldn't be going. They wouldn't be going to the Saudi League, in my point of view.
But yeah, they would. I mean, money is money.
The TV rights of the Saudi League weren't even available in half the countries that they did get available immediately when Ronaldo signed. Even Portugal.
Yeah, but this plan did not start with Ronaldo. This plan, you know, in terms of the football league, obviously he's the first shoe to drop, and he's become kind of a mouthpiece of it. But they've often stated that by 2030 they want to have a top 10 league. Ronaldo just decided to make it seem a whole lot more hyperbolic than it actually is, because 5 years is tough without the impetus of, of a World Cup or something like that, which is, you know, what got me into hot water a year ago, saying that about a top 6 about Major League Soccer. But when it comes down to it, you know, money is money, right? They are throwing inflated wages at these people, right? They are throwing inflated wages at whatever, and you can talk about it. It's a strategy. It gets people to play there. It screws up the transfer market as well, and we could argue that the transfer market was already screwed up in terms of paying ridiculous inflated costs. But when it comes down to it, I don't know if Ronaldo's solely responsible, but it feels weird to me to see Ronaldo become Zlatan for a second. It's so unnecessary of him that I just don't agree with that kind of over-the-top rhetoric from him, when generally the play on the field and his love for the club and him being an ambassador for the Saudi Pro League, fine. If that's what you want to do, that's great. Just do what you're doing and be really, really good at it. I don't think you need to throw that type of weirdness in there. Don't become Zlatan, Ronaldo.
He's just stating his point of view, but I because he's one of the most talked person in the world.
He shouldn't need to. He's Cristiano Ronaldo. You should not need to. Do it with your actions. And score a hat trick against Benfica and Faro.
Well, he scored a hat trick when he was 37 against Tottenham, and they needed a goal. They needed not just one goal. They needed 3 to win Tottenham 3-2 with Conte. But I agree with that. I agree that the actions should be told on the pitch, and I do believe he does that. But let's see more of the Saudi League in the coming season. But people, put down below, what is the signing that we haven't spoken in this video and the signing that you've liked the most? My personal one is Sekou Fofana, because he was in the team of the season of Liga, and the fact he goes to Al Nassr, it must say something, because he must believe in the league too. But tell us your thoughts in the comment section, and like this video if you're listening until now. Whee! Last shouts. What do you have, Breton?
Oh my gosh, there's so much here. So much here, but I know we don't have time to talk about it all. I mean, the transfers that are going on, we mentioned AC Milan last week, and that's just continuing. I like what's going on at AC Milan, and the gift of, I mean, a guy that we ignored in our U23 11 because Enzo and Caicedo are in front of him, was Sandro Tonali and what he could potentially do at Newcastle, and what we expect him to do at Newcastle.
That is true.
But Sandro Tonali and his sale has probably bigger impact for AC Milan this season than he will have an impact for Newcastle this particular season. The money that he raised for AC Milan has already brought in is not a word, Breton, but it has already brought in Christian Pulisic, has brought in Ruben Loftus-Cheek. It's brought in a new deal for Rafa Leao, which is probably the biggest signing. And now, they're adding Noah Okafor to the mix. And I'm pretty sure they've got a little bit left to potentially bring in Samu Chukwueze, which would be, or Yunus Musa, or both. If you can get them over the line, he has just improved. Sandro Tonali himself has improved the depth of AC Milan for years and years to come. So kudos to Sandro Tonali making that sacrifice per se.
Should spend 80 million regardless of Tonali staying or not, man. It's just sad that we have to express a team with so much history like AC Milan. The Serie A. Come on, man. Come better promotions. Use social media like the Prem. Go bold. I don't know. Netflix partnerships. I don't know. But it's sad to see Calcio, Serie A, not at the greatness that they should be, and I agree with you. It was the Sandro Tonali sale of the 80 million that makes this possibility of getting Chukwueze for 28 million, Pulisic for 22. They get Reinders for 20. They get Ruben Loftus-Cheek for 16. They get Okafor for 13 and Luca Romero for free. Luca Romero might go bold and replacing Brahim Dias, though we have high expectations. But if Pioli doesn't succeed with this team, get a top four. That is the minimal expectations of AC Milan. In my view, getting a top four, I do not think Pioli will be staying. Just like Paolo Maldini wouldn't accept the terms. In my point of view, I don't know what happened. I'm not a fly inside AC Milan camp, but I really believe that Maldini wouldn't accept the future without Tonali if Tonali wants to stay. And I agree with that, man. But it's an interesting take that they picked Okafor ahead of Taremi. I wasn't expecting that. Even ahead of Balogun. Your guy. Balogun. They picked Okafor ahead of Taremi and Balogun.
I don't know, man. Taremi seemed like a slam dunk to me. Taremi seems like a slam dunk wherever he winds up. And I don't understand why he has not been signed as of yet.
1 year contract.
I don't.
It's just the age. 31? 31 right now? Oh my gosh. 2 more years, you could get Taremi at a high level. But Chukwueze and Pulisic as a double. Yeah. Like, do you think that you said last podcast that they would win a Scudetto or be the favorites to win a Scudetto if Chukwueze comes, and now you say Musa? Why do you say that, Brenton, really? Because I believe that Juve is going to be ahead of AC Milan next season, and I believe Napoli will be ahead of AC Milan.
Yeah, okay.
And Inter.
Well, I said it.
Inter, maybe?
It comes down. It comes down. I said there was one more piece. And we have to see what AC Milan does with that. But as of right now, I mean, they weren't entirely far off. I don't think. One, I'm betting on a regression to the mean a little bit with Napoli. Okay, I don't think Lobotka is going to be the exact same player. I don't think Zielinski is going to be the exact same player this coming season. There's always a regression to the mean. You also have to take into account there's a new boss who has new ideas. And they've also just lost their top center back. So I think there will be a regression to the mean, at least that brings them closer, brings Napoli closer to the pack. AC Milan, when it comes down to it, has a pretty good defensive core. That's what we're going down to. And pretty good, I mean, probably the best
Magna,
in Serie A right now.
Kjaer, Tomori,
Theo Hernandez.
Yes. That's a good defensive team. But ahead of them, Benacer, Kalulu, true. But I still believe that if Juventus just get it right with their transfers, that I get the feeling that they might be getting it. But Rudi Garcia, very good point. But Inter, Inter is the team that I believe Inter will be, if they're getting Thuram, if they're selling Barella that we're mentioning, like maybe 100 million, AC Milan have to go bold with another player, I believe. But let's see.
They do.
But let's see.
But who?
But who? Exactly.
Who do you replace Barella with at Inter Milan? That's
Mohamed Kudus. I do believe it's not the same level, but I believe that would be a replacement that I think would be.
Kudus is so fun.
Yeah, Kudus would offer that box-to-box versatility. He would offer midfield role adaptability. But yes, just like it's a problem for AC Milan to replace Tonali, it would be a huge problem for Inter to replace Barella.
None of this changes the fact that, you know, AC Milan, if they get, they need to sign a Taremi or break the bank on Balogun. Or Okafor could play up top as well.
Yeah, Okafor is striker. No, they're not gonna get Taremi or Okafor's the guy, Bretton. No, like it's striker, 100%. Yeah. It's gonna.
Okay, well, platooning with Giroud, but they need to buy somebody else in the winter. He could play on the wing as well. Okafor, I don't think is the be all end all of what we're saying here. I think he's a shrewd buy. I think he's a good buy.
For 13 million, I agree. And Switzerland.
But I also believe, I think Reinders is going to be one of the best signings of the window. I mean, more so than Pulisic, more so than Loftus-Cheek. I think he's going to wind up being and winning people over very, very quickly as one of the top midfielders in Serie A this season. He's my breakout signing. For sure.
Prediction. But AC Milan fans and Serie A fans and FC Wonderkid fans, tell us your thoughts in the comment section down below. My last thing that I wanted to say that makes total sense, it's João Felix. I know you have the desire to play at Barca because it's the best place to play your style of football. I agree with that. The Barca DNA in you is clearly visible with the technique, the touch, the vision, everything. But I think you'll have to do a step back, maybe going to Benfica or to Aston Villa. And I believe Benfica is a much greater choice than Aston Villa to join. I do believe he could break the Premier League with Unai Emery and impress with Ollie Watkins ahead of him. Because at Chelsea, I think he did impress as he should because he didn't have a striker ahead of him. I was literally even begging, like, not Fofana to be the striker. Yes, I was saying Fofana go as striker, and I was so sad when Broja got injured. But he just was doing the same role with Kai Havertz when they were positioned. They were playing at the same time. So I just wanted to say, João Felix, vai para o Benfica.
That would be insane.
João Felix, go to Benfica, play with Roger Schmidt, play a beautiful style of football. But if that happens, I do believe that maybe a player like Neres or Rafa could be leaving. But if not, the amount of talent that can be, it can be risky in the locker room, but the amount of talent in that team. Because there's players, obviously, that wouldn't be happy if João Felix arriving because they lose minutes. But Benfica fans, they would be the happiest. And Di Maria returning. That Di Maria, three in his last 3 friendlies, 3 goals. And that moment with Ronaldo, I do think it's overput in social media for the Ronaldo hate. But yes, it was a great moment from Di Maria.
It was a great moment. Yes, yeah. Well, you know, you want to throw João Felix, you want to throw a really, really random team in there right now with also a Spanish boss who I'm most excited to watch. And this is a really bad segue into this. It'd be really interesting for João Felix to sign for one of the powerhouses in the current transfer window of the Premier League, and that's Bournemouth. I'm kidding. I'm absolutely kidding. That is said in jest. It is a joke. But listen, I do have to say something. Bournemouth is one to watch to break out this season, not in a European way or anything like that, but because of their manager. I'm really excited about Anthony Iraola. He's Bilbao. He was a Bilbao legend, if I'm not mistaken. He was a right back, which is I think why they're very close to getting Ivan Fresneda on the right side. They've got Zabarny in the middle, right, 20-year-old Ukrainian player, and on the left side now they hijacked the deal from Lazio, Milos Kerkez, and from Benfica. I know they were kind of in on it for a little while. On the left. And you've got just this you've got Dango Ouattara that they brought in from Lorient. And it's just the making of a potential FC Wonderkid in the Premier League, brought on by one of the more Wonderkid managers that spent 400 plus La Liga games playing for Athletic Bilbao. And according to many, in terms of watching him previously and watching him kind of move up the ranks managerially, Iriola has some phenomenal ideas. So I'm excited to see them in the Premier League, and whether or not he can bring in a few more. So I know that wasn't exactly the greatest tightrope walk to draw the line between João Felix and Bournemouth, because there is no line there. But I wanted to definitely say no line whatsoever. But I want to say, like, there is no bigger understanding of how big the Premier League is when it comes to money than watching teams like AFC Bournemouth or Brentford throw 25 million euro deals down like they're nothing. Exactly. And Nottingham Forest last season, because that is how much money is in Premier League football at the moment. It is sustainable for the most part for right now, but to see that happen, these are relegation scrap teams from last season.
It happens
buying players.
Well, it happens because the funds are divided, and that's what the Premier League do. That's very good. Sharing. That they do that. They share the revenue, and it's not like the last team gets 80 million. The winner of the Premier League gets like 120. So the discrepancy isn't too much, which allows all the teams in the Premier League to improve in the future. I agree
because they're in every country. They're in every country. You can't go anywhere without being able to get access to a Premier League football game. Japan, China, USA, you name it, it's in the biggest population. And my gosh, in the US, it's insane.
And let's see what's going to happen in the near future. Thank you for watching this video until now. And please do not forget to like, comment, and share this video to go bold. Our podcast is out every Monday at 6 o'clock, so please tune in. Thank you for listening.